This is the Television Enthusiast Podcast, The Weekly Set.
Episode 21, recorded August 6th, 2015. Hello, and welcome to the TV Enthusiast Podcast, The Weekly Set. I am your host, Tyson. Joining me today are Will.
Hello.
And Kat.
Hi.
Today we're going to be kind of just going over some of the news. Recently we had, while Comic-Con ended, news kind of leaks out, takes a while after that. But then also, right after Comic-Con, they have the TCA, the Television Critics Association presentations, where every, network and cable channel and now like streaming service will, throw basically like it's in like Los Angeles, and they'll have like a little presentation of their own over a course of like 2 weeks or so, and invite a bunch of the press from the TCAs and show them, trailers, bring out, guest actors and stuff like that to kind of talk to them and do little interview things. So it's a time when lots of news starts kind of trickling out. Some of it from the TCAs directly, some of it kind of unrelated, but just kind of gets mixed up in all the hubbub. And so that's kind of what we're going to be going over. Some of the kind of bigger news stories and stuff that have been kind of leaking out around this time, around these last 2 weeks or so. So yeah, let's start it off. I brought up a list of kind of notes for us to kind of go over so we can kind of keep it in a good order. Starting with, we talked before about the X-Men TV series possibility for Fox.
Right.
And it just came out recently. Fox was basically just saying that, I mean, this isn't really news, I guess, but they were saying it's moving along. It's getting further in negotiations than it's ever been. It's looking good.
Basically, the news is there's still negotiations, which is pretty much no news. It's like, it can still go either way, so I don't know.
They seem optimistic, though, so...
It's optimistic at this point, but, I mean, with the way negotiations go, it can go up to the last minute with everybody thinking everything's a go, and then it can just collapse.
Okay, I don't like this negativity. I'm just saying, I want this X-Men show to happen, because if it happens, it could potentially be my favorite comic book show on television, just by virtue of being X-Men. So I don't want any pessimism from you.
Oh, yeah. No, I know. I'm just trying to be a realist, because I don't want to get my hopes up.
If it doesn't happen, it's all Will's fault. He jinxed it.
I'm behind this. Yeah.
This is something I really want to happen. I want this to happen and not suck. That's the other thing too, that it has to happen and not suck. Because I want a good X-Men TV show. And the last time we had that was the cartoon in the 90s.
Yeah. No, X-Men Evolution was a good show. Like, it didn't get as much time as the cartoon in the 90s, but it was still a good show.
Okay, yeah, from everything, I actually haven't watched much of X-Men Evolution, so I wasn't able to form an opinion on it. But yeah, from what I hear, that wasn't a bad show either.
Here's what excites me is I read that they say that they'll potentially use some of the same characters that they've used in the films, which I'd rather they did. I think it would be too complicated to try to tie them into the films. And it also means that maybe we could finally get good versions of some of the franchise's most important characters, like Cyclops and Jean and Storm and Rogue.
We're really getting all those again, though, with X-Men Apocalypse.
Not Rogue.
Well, not Rogue.
Rogue
is
still unjustly represented in the films.
They do have the Rogue edition of the Days of Future Past.
Yeah. She's still lame. She's still completely lame. But my point is, they could reuse characters, which I'm glad, because otherwise I worry they'd be relegated to using B and C level characters, and I don't want that to happen.
I totally thought a TV series would focus on B and C characters.
I think that is the direction they're moving in, though. I think they're going in that direction of the kind of B and C characters, the ancillary characters.
They can't, though. Then how will they get fans to watch? Because, I mean, that's why fans didn't go see First Class. It was pulling up characters like Riptide and Tempest. And it's like, who are these people, and why do we care about them?
I think they might, because I think they're going to directly link it. Because the thing is that Fox has been kind of making this weird kind of like post-MCU move in that same direction.
No, but they said they're not. They said they're willing to reuse characters from the film, so I really don't think they're going to link it to the movies.
Well, I think they retconned a lot of it, so I wouldn't put it past them to reuse characters that showed up in certain films, because they're kind of like ignoring certain movies. It's weird. Like, the new Deadpool movie's coming out is kind of retconning the whole, like, first Wolverine solo movie.
Well, does anybody... Well, no, because Days of Future Past already retconned that movie. So...
I guess, yeah.
Nobody at Fox wants to remember that movie.
So, because of that, you're able to kind of bring in some of these characters that they're not necessarily... the low tier kind of characters, but they're still like characters that are, villain wise characters like the Blob or things like that, which were kind of big characters as far as, I guess in the comics, because X-Men has always been so ensemble that like there's very few in the actual like the A, that would be like Cyclops, Wolverine, and Jean and Professor X, pretty much, and Storm, I guess.
I don't think you're gonna get like Cyclops, Wolverine, the real A-listers on the show.
Then what's the point of making it?
But you might get Storm and Rogue and Gambit.
I could see them doing that.
Gambit.
Because they did, they have the X-Men Apocalypse coming out, so I could see them kind of going like with a little more future with it. I don't know.
Gambit has not had proper representation in this franchise yet.
Yeah.
Jubilee, she's going to be in the new movie too, but they can do her in the show.
And the Gambit movie seems to be falling apart too.
Yeah,
no, Channing Tatum has said that he's recommitted. But, I mean, if DC can be having the Joker in both Gotham and Suicide Squad and Deadshot and et cetera, I feel like Fox can do the same with X-Men.
I don't know, Fox is a weird beast with all this stuff. Like, I feel like what they're gonna do is that as they move forward, they'll just retcon the things they didn't like, and then so it'll all be in the same universe, but certain parts will be retconned. And it's just like a weird kind of way that it seems to be that they're doing it. And a big part of that is the way they're handling Deadpool. If you guys have seen the new Deadpool trailer that came out, it's got Colossus in it. And
But Colossus is in Deadpool? Oh.
Yeah.
Is it played by the same guy, Daniel Cudmore?
No, the director of Deadpool said that he asked Daniel Cudmore to reprise his role, and Daniel Cudmore said no thanks.
Oh.
So what they're doing though is they are connecting it together, and like the way they've been promoting the Fantastic Four recently, they had like a whole thing where at the end of the trailer it was Deadpool. And so they're doing this weird way of using Deadpool to kind of tie the universe together.
I like the Deadpool teaser for the trailer, where Deadpool said, from the studio that sewed his mouth shut the last time.
Yeah, so that's also like an interesting thing, because you can use Deadpool to connect these universes in a way that's different from a way you would normally connect the universe, because Deadpool is so kind of like meta. You can kind of connect it in this kind of loose way that's like, as if, it doesn't matter, like they can be completely separate and the only connection is through like a Deadpool thing or something, like it can be this kind of separate thing almost. So it's kind of weird. It'll be interesting to see how Fox shapes their FMCU.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious, and I'll freely admit, if Rogue is in it, I will watch it because she is my all-time favorite comic book character, and I go wherever she goes. If she's not, I'll still probably watch it, but I'll be slightly more wary.
Apparently, Fox is considering doing a crossover with their X-Men and Fantastic Four franchises.
Based on Fantastic Four's reviews, I think that would be a bad idea.
I think that would be a bad idea, too. Did you see Josh Trank went on Twitter and he said, last year I had a much better version of Fantastic Four. It would have gotten great reviews. And then he removed the tweet.
Ow.
Yeah, I know, right?
So speaking of Josh Trank, he created a little movie that I love called Chronicle, alongside writer Max Landis.
Right.
And that brings us to our next news story that's come out.
What a convenient segue.
Thank you. I'm taking a bow right now. So Max Landis is adapting Dirk Gently. I don't know how many people know about Dirk Gently. I mean, I just learned about it reading up on this, but
I read the books, so
even if people don't know who they are, they know who the author of Dirk Gently is.
It is like this really bizarre, funny, surreal sort of detective novel.
And it's from Douglas Adams, who is the author of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
It's kind of a trip because it's a detective novel, but it takes place, it involves time and space and
Wibbly wobbly.
Wiggly wobbly. It's pretty trippy stuff, It was kind of, as a book, it was actually kind of hard to follow at times, but I still enjoyed it. So excited to see this getting made.
So this was actually made in the UK 5 years ago. They actually made a series that ran 2 years or 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, it's famous. It's Douglas Adams, so it's pretty famous. Just like the Hitchhiker series, there are many adaptations of Douglas Adams' work, especially in the UK, so I'm not surprised.
What's interesting, though, is that this is coming to BBC America, and this is, BBC America started out primarily as it was Doctor Who and then a bunch of weird random stuff, basically. That was kind of the purpose of BBC America.
Right,
and then they started bringing over more British series, and just recently, in the last couple of years, they've kind of broadened their reach out to originals. Orphan Black is probably the biggest success story from that, but it's interesting that this is being made for BBC America, but there is I believe it was a BBC version of the original one that just came out 5 years ago, so it's modern,
Right, yeah.
So it's going to be kind of interesting to see how that kind of plays out, I'm a big fan of Chronicle. It looks like Josh Trank didn't really put out a great follow-up with Fantastic Four, but I'm hoping Max Landis does with this.
I'm a big fan of Douglas Adams, so I'm hoping this comes out good. I don't think his work gets the justice it does. They only made one Hitchhiker movie, and it was merely okay. Yeah. I don't think it gets done the justice that it should be done. I'm hoping this is it.
Yeah. So next up on our little docket of news stories here, David Simon. Have either of you watched The Wire?
No.
But you guys kind of know the reputation of the series, right?
Of course.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
The Wire is the one series where as a fan of the series, I'm saying this, but there are some fans of that series that will make comments I don't trust white people unless they've watched The Wire, and
wow.
So this is kind of the reaction that The Wire gets. People hold this series in majorly high esteem, and a big part of that
it's apparently the greatest television series ever created by mankind.
That's a reason to be wary of trying it. When something has that high of praise, it's unlikely to live it up to it for me, you know?
It's funny because they brought that up to David Simon, and he refuted the point and said that Buffy the Vampire Slayer is the best show ever written.
Nice.
But yeah, The Wire is definitely a good show, okay? And I think a big part of what draws people to it as being such an important show is that its creator, David Simon, is a former journalist. So he puts a lot of research into it, and it's kind of like, it kind of shows certain elements of life as they are in a way that they haven't really been exposed before or expressed, which is kind of what he's known for. So he has 2 pilots at HBO that have just gotten approved. The first is a 1970s set porn industry series called The Deuce, which is going to star James Franco as twins.
Oh dear, double the James Franco fun.
You never know where that's going with James Franco, because he'll do things that are like really good and high acclaimed, and then he'll go off and do like these weird ass.
I love this. It's 2 James Francos and they're porn stars.
I don't know if they're porn stars. They're in the porn industry. I don't know if they're actually like supposed to be actors or distributors, but it's 1970s porn, so I'm guessing it has a lot to do with the kind of the early mafia ties to the porn industry.
Oh, probably, yeah.
Yeah, because in the early porn industry, yeah, there was like a whole thing, like a question about the legality of it, and there was, like organized crime involved in the production and stuff.
Organized crime is involved there.
Oh, yeah.
They're involved in everything.
But yeah, it was kind of like a weird time. So it's an interesting, it's been covered by other kind of movies and stuff, and kind of delved into it. Yeah, Wonderland, but different ones have kind of covered into that early porn kind of, industry stories or whatever.
I don't know if I'm excited to go and revisit that, after other media has covered it so well already.
I think David Simon being very specific about the realism of his shows and portraying it in a very realistic way is what makes me most interested in it. I'm really interested to see what kind of a James Franco role this is, because like I said, he runs the gamut,
Yeah, he does. Yeah, James Franco is interesting.
And so the second series that David Simon has going here is a modern day Capitol Hill series that's actually being co-created between him and Carl Bernstein, who was one of the journalists involved in the Watergate scandal.
Right.
And, the author of All the President's Men, which was about that whole thing. So that's interesting, just, that's like a very important figure in journalism. And he's this isn't a show about him. This is a show with him working on it, along with David Simon, who's got the credit from The Wire. I feel like this kind of has more chance of really nailing that HBO vibe of the two.
Probably.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Again, the subject matter doesn't really interest me too much.
Yeah, we got House of Cards already. We got that. What's that one? What's that one about like blackmail or something? That's that I think it's on ABC. That's about like Washington D.C. as well. Scandal. Yeah. Yeah, so we have there's other shows kind of
obviously,
tackling corrupt politics.
A David Simon show about corrupt politics is going to be nothing like either of those two.
Oh, yeah, definitely. They're definitely different.
But I'm so over political corruption and scandal.
It's too true and nothing happens. That's the problem with it.
It's just depressing.
Yeah. It's not eye-opening anymore. It's just depressing.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, really.
Just reminds you how powerless we all are. On that sad note, also related to HBO, Judd Apatow is set to produce the new Jermaine Clement HBO series, of course, from Flight of the Conchords, comedian. So yeah, there's not too much known about that. When I was reading up on it a little bit, it looks like it was, something that they had pitched, him and his writing partner had pitched, like 9 years ago in New Zealand and couldn't get picked up. But that was the same case with Flight of the Conchords.
Cool.
Where they couldn't get it picked up in their own native country and then got it on like HBO.
Yeah. Cool. That's all I have to say about that. I mean, there's no information to form a real opinion except for, who's involved. That's neat.
That about sums it up, yeah. So we're gonna move on to a series that I hate.
Ouch.
What? How can you hate this? I love this. Rise of the Villains. Really?
That should have been a tagline for the entire series, not just the...
Seriously? They are seriously using these new villains to spawn more villains?
Yeah, they're not even trying to be a serious show anymore. It's like they just gave up.
So we haven't even told the audience here what we're talking about. So to clarify, we're talking about season 2 of Gotham, which has the tagline Rise of the Villains, and their new posters they've been putting out.
And the new toy line to go with it.
Yeah. And they're introducing, in the poster they're showing 2 new villains added to the fray of millions. James Frayne from True Blood, he was also in Orphan Black this last season, is in the series as Theo Galavan, and as he's like a billionaire industrial, guy or whatever.
It upsets me that I don't know who Theo Galavan is when I know so much about DC Comics, and especially Batman and his rogues gallery.
Yeah.
And that name draws a blank completely.
Well, it also involves his sister, Tabitha Galavan, who is also the Tigress. That's what she's known as in DC. And she is his enforcer, basically.
Tigress is a Wonder Woman villain.
Yeah.
They're stealing Wonder Woman villains now because they feel like Batman doesn't have enough villains?
Right? I know. Let's throw Wonder Woman villains in Gotham. It's like, okay, I thought this was a show about Batman.
The Tigress is being played by Jessica Lucas, who was in the recent Evil Dead remake.
Though, to be fair, I mean, Arrow's been borrowing villains that, from my understanding, Green Arrow has faced off in the comics, but are still more DC-wide villains, like Deathstroke and Ra's al Ghul.
Oh, well, Ra's al Ghul, yeah.
Yeah, well, Arrow doesn't have, a rogues gallery that's, really unique to him.
Uh-huh.
And he never did. I think Deathstroke was created originally as a Green Arrow villain, but then he turned out to be one of those characters that was so cool that they had to use him for everything. So, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, it's I think the issue, even putting that into fairness, is that the problem with Gotham has pretty much been from the very beginning that they've been trying to cram way too many villains down our throat. From the get-go. I mean, from the pilot, they were, just pushing too much out,
It's like,
and to see them call this season, the tagline, after that was, the huge criticism of season 1, having season 2 being called Rise of the Villains. Just wow, you just did not listen at all.
I would have been just fine with season 1 just being,
like Penguin and the Mobsters.
Yeah, Penguin and the Mobsters. That would have been fine.
By the way, that's the name of my new band. You guys are all coming to my show, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like the showrunners for Gotham just did not get the note, that everybody was dropping, which was, cut down on these villains, and they just said, what, more villains?
Is Riddler evil yet?
I don't think
he
so.
killed someone in the finale.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I feel kind of bad because I think the guy who plays Riddler is doing a great job, but I think he is one of the most superfluous characters on the show. Like, you could excise him from it, and I think it would barely have a ripple effect.
Yeah, I still love his first appearance on the show. He basically comes on the show and says, "Hi, I'm the Riddler."
He's all, riddle me this!
Yeah, I know. That was terrible.
So from a show I've grown to hate to a show that I've always loved, Game of Thrones.
Oh,
we got
yes.
3 kind of news stories that come out. This is all kind of stuff that we probably would have gotten at Comic-Con, except Comic-Con was pretty early this year. And because of that, certain things were withheld. Normally you get a casting video, at Comic-Con for Game of Thrones. We didn't get any casting information at all this year. But we did get just recently now through the TCAs and through all the stuff that's happening around there. First we got, HBO boss Michael Lombardo basically pretty much directly saying that the series is gonna go like 8 seasons.
Yeah,
That's
maybe
probably
more.
a good idea to set an end date.
Right.
Well, I know that the showrunners were saying 7 is what they were aiming for.
Especially as now we're getting beyond the content of the novels, and from here on out there is no novel to adapt anymore.
Yeah, they're kind of on their own material now.
Yeah.
They know where the stuff's going. They know like the fates of the major characters.
Yeah, they know the basic roadmap of where George R. R. Martin intends on things to go, but they don't they don't have like novel material to adapt. They just have George R. R. Martin's notes now to go.
That's going to make this new season fascinating because I think in some ways it might be to their benefit to not have that material.
Right.
Just because it means that they can kind of be more focused on what they want to work on and what they think is more important. Whereas, I think last season there were some storylines that, even some stuff that I was excited about, like the Sand Snakes, that just did not play out well.
Right.
It was just felt kind of forced in, oh, well, we have to put this in because we need to cover this.
Yeah, we need to cover this, and it's there was, one interesting thing from the novels that they didn't cover. Actually, I probably shouldn't say this because
just avoid spoilers. Just don't say them.
If anybody's planning to read the novel, it would be a big spoiler. So no, I'll not say it.
Yeah, there were a few things that were kind of there's one really huge, significant thing that.
Here's what entertains me about Game of Thrones these days is that I've seen even the Huffington Post with articles saying, yes, Jon Snow is really dead. This is such a huge controversy that regular news is reporting on it. So, without having seen the show, I know that Jon Snow is dead.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, there's some that are just inescapable like that.
That's why I'm so glad I've been watching the show from day one as it aired, so that I didn't get the stuff spoiled for me, because I'd be so pissed off. Especially the Red Wedding. God. I think everybody knows about that now, but when that happened live on TV, that was such an oh my god thing. It's to the point where I don't even like these casting announcements, I don't even like to read them, because it's usually they're casting a role of a character that from the upcoming book or whatever, the next book, that has, and then people and then that has implications in and of itself to where the story is going, and the casting announcements can be a spoiler in and of themselves.
Speaking of which, we have 2 casting announcements to go over.
Yeah.
Thankfully, these don't really give any real spoilers. One of them, there's no information about the character, and the other one is a recasting of a character that already exists on the show.
Oh, okay.
So, first off, we have Max von Sydow, who's a really well-known older actor. He was in The Exorcist. way back in the day, was one of the priests in The Exorcist, has been cast as the three-eyed raven, who we've already seen in Game of Thrones. Not fifth season, fourth season. That was like the end of Bran's story where we ran into that old man that was kind of like part of the tree. That's the three-eyed raven, or the guy that controls the three-eyed raven, or whatever he is. Well, that role's been recast. So that's the first casting story. The other one, which is more interesting, and we have no information on who he's playing, is Ian McShane from Deadwood.
I want to see Ian McShane in Game of Thrones. It would be amazing.
Just as Swearingen.
Yeah, just as Swearingen. Just the same character. In that...
Just using the C word liberally all the time.
Yeah, I know. Right? Wow, I mean,
so one thing Game of Thrones
it.
is missing, we got the sex, we got the violence, now we just need the C word thrown in.
Oh, I'm pretty sure they've already used the C word 100 times on Game of Thrones anyway.
But yeah, Ian McShane, great actor. It'd be fascinating to see what role he's playing.
Yeah.
They had put out before like a kind of casting list of kind of roles that are coming up and stuff. So there's a few that could kind of fit, something you'd imagine Ian McShane doing. But who knows if it's any of those? It could not be. It could be that it's none of those, and it's a completely different role for all we know.
Ian McShane plays the nicest person to ever live in Westeros.
It's just this kindly old man that gives sweets to kids. And...
Is being nice relative, so it just means that you're marginally less terrible than everyone else?
He just only kills some children.
He only kills some of the children.
So Kat's been quiet here, so now let's go to a topic that's gonna get her voiced up here. So let's talk about the Arrowverse.
Lots of announcements there.
And what's interesting is a lot of these announcements you can't necessarily attribute to one show.
No.
Yeah, because so many of these actors are going to I think they're going to appear on Arrow and Flash first, and then on Legends of Tomorrow when it starts.
Because Arrowverse is 3 shows, but the first big thing is you finally have Wally West has been cast for The Flash, being played by Keenan Lansdale.
Yeah, he's from the Insurgent movies, if you've seen those. I mean, I haven't, so...
No.
Yeah, I mean, there isn't too terribly much to say about the casting choice, or... We don't really have a strong idea yet what they're doing with the character.
No, just that he exists and that that Wally West eventually becomes the Flash himself. So apparently in the comic books, Wally West is Iris's nephew, but since in the show Iris doesn't have a sibling that anybody knows of. That's going to be problematic. So he's got to be related to Iris and Joe in some other way.
Yeah. Could very well be, like we just don't know what's going to happen to them. He's also, of all of these, forecastings that have come out, he's the one that's probably Flash specific. At least this season, as far as we know.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, they said, the article I read said that he is actually going to be a regular this season.
He's going to be a regular? Okay, here's what kills me. If he winds up related to Iris, and he's also like a speedster character, right? So that's going to be one more person in Iris's life that's like super special, amazing, while she will probably be held in the dark about all of it while she obsesses over her relationship. They'll probably, I don't know. Iris, they made her into like the most worthless rehash of a character. It's embarrassing.
Oh, I know.
So if she's related to him, I've already feel sorry for her.
Right.
We'll have to see what happens with season 2, because it's always interesting to see a show that has some heavy criticisms go into a second season, and sometimes those criticisms are completely addressed.
I don't know.
And sometimes, like it looks like with Gotham, They just go right in the opposite direction.
Well, I feel like, and tell me if you feel this is different, I feel like the overwhelming consensus I saw from people is that they really liked first season of The Flash. Was there anyone really loudly crying out about things like Iris? I mean, aside from me.
Us.
Aside from us.
She seems to be the one complaint I have heard when people talk about The Flash.
Okay.
People generally acknowledge Iris was annoying last season.
Through no fault of her own.
Not to the degree that Felicity was annoying. But
it's not, I don't think it's coincidence. Like, both of them were kind of getting categorized in the same way, and it's that same wretched way that female characters have so often been used in comic book adaptations in the past that it was really discouraging to see both shows fall into that trap.
It really was, especially with Felicity, who originally wasn't like that. I mean, with Iris's case, this has been Iris since the show started. Felicity was totally supposed to be like an independent, totally not that stereotype. And then, I don't know, that was more disappointing to me. But yeah, I mean, I hope they really revamp Iris's character this season, make her more interesting, give her more interesting things to do.
Maybe they could give her superpowers. That would help a lot.
Let's talk about some of the other castings here in the Arrowverse. First off, we have a really big one, which is Vandal Savage, who, as Will noted, according to my original show notes, which I had to air in, is being played by Vandal Savage.
The actual Vandal Savage. Well, he is an immortal time traveler, so he didn't want anyone else. There was no one else good enough for the
He's
role.
actually being played by a Danish actor named Kasper Krump.
Okay, that name is amazing.
He sounds like he could be a comic book character.
He should have been a background character in, Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell.
Yeah, I know. Kasper Krump. It sounds like a Harry Potter name.
Yeah, it does. It really does. It just, screams whimsical European or something.
Yeah, whimsical British name is what it screams.
I don't really know, I checked his IMDb and it was all just Danish stuff, so it's nothing.
Kasper Krump is the name of a protagonist in an indie film.
It's about a man who falls in love with his couch.
That's cool. I mean, he certainly looks the part from the picture I've seen, so.
Yeah, he definitely has that comic book look to him with the Widow Peak hair and he has that comic book villain look to him, so. We'll have to see how he works out in it. I think the one credit I could recognize that he was in The Killing, but not the U.S. Killing, the Danish Killing.
Oh, okay.
Which is what the U.S. one was based on, so.
I guess what was interesting to me is they announced Hawkman. We already know about Hawkgirl. Hawkgirl was going to be a big part of Legends of Tomorrow, but we didn't know if there was going to be a Hawkman or if that was going to play. Apparently there is.
Hawkman and Hawkgirl are being played by relatively unknown actors. With
I should
Hawkman,
know that Hawkgirl's actress had already been announced. In fact, she appeared in the season finale of The Flash for
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I must have missed that.
Oh, yeah.
But Hawkman, was cast, the actor's name is Falk Henschel. Again, probably cast because of his name. Said, your name is Falk, you got the job. He appeared in I think just in one episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Just one episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
I think it was just one. That's all I could find on him, literally. I mean, there wasn't much to attribute to the actor, but
I wonder how big of a role Hawkman's going to play, considering they really played up Hawkgirl being in the show, being part of the team, and they never mentioned Hawkman until now.
Yeah.
So I wonder how big the role is and how important that role is to the show, or if that's just like or if he's just going to appear to like explain the Hawk Girl character and to flesh out her backstory more.
Yeah. Or maybe he'll be like, like in a different time or something,
Right.
Do we know when they start filming Legends of Tomorrow? Are they already in the process?
They're probably already in the process. I know when Comic-Con was hitting, I remember in the Supernatural panel, they had said that they had just started, like, production, like, days before Comic-Con.
Sure.
And then, like, had to break from production, like, right away.
Well, I wonder if this is going to be different because it's going to be a shorter season and doesn't start till next year. So, like, they don't need to have stuff ready for the fall.
That's true.
Because I'm just curious, because I'm wondering if they're already casting him, like, we might know, how big of a role characters like Hawkman are going to play.
And also, it's already been announced that at least Vandal Savage is going to appear in an episode or two of both Arrow and The Flash before Legends of Tomorrow premieres.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So, we have some other castings here outside of the, some of these bigger shows. So, first up, there's been some Supergirl casting. We have two, recent castings there. Lois Lane's sister, Lucy, because any character with a last name that starts with L in the DC universe has to have a first name that also starts with L.
20 characters like this.
With the initials LL.
It's out of control.
Lois Lane.
Lex
Lucy
Luthor,
Lane.
Lana Lane. Laura
If your
Lance.
last name starts with an L, your first name must start with an L.
Laura Lance. Yeah, the creators of Superman were very big on those LL initials, huh?
Maybe their middle names all
like
have
to have
O.
alliterative names.
Well, then there's like
as far as they can.
Kent. I mean, technically that's a C and a K, but
it's a hard K sound, or
Yeah.
but what's interesting here though is that what if all of their middle names start with O?
Lol.
They were like ahead of their time with the memes.
Yeah.
But okay, so Lois Lane's sister Lucy will be played by Jenna Dewan Tatum. It's actually Channing Tatum's wife.
I was wondering if she was related to Channing Tatum. That's really funny.
So yeah,
I don't know how I feel about Lois Lane's sister being married to
They're going to be in
Gambit.
imposing universes. But yeah, she was in American Horror Story. She's been in a few kind of other things. That was kind of the one that I noticed more. We also have Chris Browning, who was in Sons of Anarchy, is going to play a villain named Ben Kroll, also known as Reactron, who in the series has been, it's not like, we don't see his origin. He's like an existing villain that goes after Supergirl because he couldn't go after Superman.
Yeah.
Which seems to be a lot of what Supergirl's kind of about. It seems to be about like, oh, here's some stuff with Superman, and then let's move to the smaller stage, and here's Supergirl.
Yeah, right. It's like Supergirl seems to be getting Superman's sloppy seconds here.
Yeah.
It's like they also like had that description with the lumberjack who's going to be the villain in the pilot episode, where he's fought Superman before, but now he thinks he could take on Supergirl or something. I don't know. And it's like, can Supergirl get her own villains? Maybe.
Can she live her own life? Just leave her alone.
Just leave her alone.
Here's one of interest to Will and I. Hugh Dancy, who plays Will Graham in Hannibal, has been cast in an upcoming Hulu series called The Way, which also stars Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad, who played Jesse, of course, in Breaking Bad. Yeah, I mean,
I would be
great cast.
interesting.
Looking at some of the other people involved in the cast, really good people involved in the show.
It would be interesting if they remade Breaking Bad with Hugh Dancy as Walt.
He's all, this meth is my design.
Yeah.
So the description of the way, this is just word for word taken from an article I, checked on it. Basically says the way examines a family at the center of a controversial movement, struggling with relationships, marriage, and power, with each episode taking an in-depth look at what it means to choose between the life we live and the life we want.
Yeah, see, that's so vague that I can't get nothing out of that. I mean...
Yeah. That's kind of why when in the notes I just put the quote in there as whole, because I'm like, I don't know how to rephrase this.
Great cast, but what is this show about?
I love Aaron Paul, love Hugh Dancy, a lot of the other people in it look really good, people that I've seen before and just tons of different things, so we'll just have to see. Right. Let's talk about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. By the way, real quick, let's not go into a full discussion of it, but how far are you in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. now, Will?
I think I'm on episode 14 of season 2.
Okay.
Around there, yeah.
Okay, so here we have news that Constance Zimmer, who was in Boston Legal, is going to be joining Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as an antagonist who is searching for Inhumans as the head of a secret government agency. So she's going to be butting heads with Coulson. This is like a government agency where S.H.I.E.L.D. is a private agency.
Right.
And they're basically hunting the same people.
They're going to be
searching for Inhumans.
Agency, right?
Yeah.
Because I think there are a few agencies from the comics that this could turn out to be, from my understanding. There's one called Sword I've read about.
Sword, from the comic book, Sword was actually when they named Norman Osborn, the Green Goblin, as the new director of S.H.I.E.L.D., and then he renamed it.
Oh, okay. Wow, yeah. Norman Osborn was once director of S.H.I.E.L.D.? My mind is blown.
yeah, after he got full credit for saving the Earth from the Skrull alien invasion, yes.
Okay.
So here's another casting story
and then he went ahead and he made an evil version of the Avengers.
As one does. So here's one that I find, a story that I'm really kind of excited about. Robert Knepper, from Prison Break, also just been in a ton of stuff. He's one of those character actors that you see his face, and you'll go, oh yeah, I am.
Yeah.
He shows up everywhere.
He's joined the cast of iZombie, and he'll be playing Blaine's dad.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just have to take this moment to say, Blaine has daddy issues? Really?
Right.
Television, please leave daddy issues alone. I'm so tired of daddy issues.
Hey, but it's Robert Knepper portraying
Robert
the daddy
Knepper
issues.
Is a great actor. Don't get me wrong. And he'll probably just do everything he can for this role, but I'm so tired of daddy issues.
My reaction is simple. Does Blaine need a dad? Do we need a plot about Blaine's dad?
Well, have you guys finished the season yet of iZombie?
I never watched the finale. I lost interest 2 months ago.
There are aspects of the finale that make this kind of interesting.
Okay.
And that's all I'll say. I won't go into details because it'll be spoiling some stuff, but I'm actually really interested in how this is going to play out. But, it's just kind of a different direction that they're going to be able to kind of tell his story in, from being this like kind of universal bad guy that's just kind of, we always talked about him as being this bad guy it's like somebody who was in over his head and then became a zombie and then realized that he really has nothing else to fear anymore.
Right.
And so now he's like, violent and just kind of at the top of the food chain kind of thing going on. But he always seemed like a person that's kind of easily impressed by other people. And, that's kind of what's going to be interesting to see played in with kind of the events of what happened in the finale. So yeah, I'm interested in that. But, let's move on from those castings. Let's talk about some series that are coming back. Some of these are kind of long overdue. A few of them are kind of, just recent ones, but these are the more interesting ones. First up, Prison Break. I just mentioned Robert Knepper. You know what's interesting about this is I just went a couple months ago to a kind of family get together, and I was hanging out with my nephews, and one of them, through the entire thing, we'd be like, oh, he's got his head buried in his towel again. Guess what he was watching? Prison Break. He's obsessed with Prison Break, and he's watching through this, and just as he's done that, now Prison Break is in development, officially in development at Fox.
Oh, give me strength. Okay, putting aside the obvious bizarreness of how Wentworth Miller and Dominic Purcell are both currently co-stars in the Arrowverse, but also there's the problems of how Michael Scofield is supposedly dead, and really none of the seasons past first were that good, so what more can they do with the concept and characters?
They should just have Prison Break, but have Dominic Purcell and the other guy and Wentworth Miller just play their Arrowverse.
It's like Weekend at Bernie's. They should do it like Weekend at Bernie's style.
They can play Captain Cold and Heatwave on Prison Break. This is what happened to them the last time they escaped.
I want to see it Weekend at Bernie's style with Wentworth Miller's character dead. And his brother just can't give him up, so he's just walking around with him, carrying his dead body around.
Oh, good heavens.
But yeah, got Prison Break is in development at Fox. What's interesting here is that I had mentioned one of my nephews really into it. The other nephew also had gotten into the show, but he had kind of for him, it was always I'm already past that. I'm watching other stuff now. But apparently there's been a pretty huge audience of Prison Break that's grown because of Netflix.
Oh, okay. Makes sense.
So it's one of these things that we're seeing these kind of possible revivals. I remember a while ago Netflix was talking about the possibility of reviving Jericho, which is a series that I really liked, and they weren't able to pull it off, but it was just because out of nowhere it became really successful on Netflix. And this is this weird era we live in now where some show that was a cult hit, but not necessarily a cult hit that's going to be talked about for generations.
Right.
And kind of faded away and is forgotten, could just come back out of nowhere because it had popularity, newfound popularity.
Right. Exactly.
So that's kind of, I think, what makes that interesting. So I'm interested in seeing where they take this and what they do with it. The showrunner already said that he's gonna retcon certain aspects of the way Prison Break ended. Not all of it, but some of it, in order to tell a story, so.
Let's retcon things to make things work.
It's Fox, that's Fox is doing that with X-Men too,
One thing I'd like to see them address is, I think starting in second season, I no longer felt the ends justified the means for Michael's actions, and he was starting to become morally questionable in ways the writing wasn't really admitting to. So I was having a hard time continuing to root for him, so I don't know. I'd like to see the writing better able to address the complexities of that. I don't know. We'll see.
It's going to be like an event series, so it'll be tighter.
It's going to be like
episodes.
The 24 reboot was, just a smaller run of episodes.
Yeah, probably something along those lines. We'll have to see. I mean, this could turn out to be amazing, or it could turn out to be crap, or anywhere in between, basically. We'll have to see. I mean, so much stuff is coming back. I think I honestly have higher hopes for this than the upcoming Heroes. Reborn.
Ouch.
But
you know what's interesting about Heroes Reborn is they kept saying pre-release that it was going to be new characters. They kept emphasizing that Heroes Reborn was new characters, yet in the previews I've seen, they keep showing old characters, and more old characters keep showing up in every successive preview. It's like another of the old characters shows up, and I'm like,
Heroes is to old characters as Gotham is to villains.
Yeah,
It's interesting you make that comparison because Heroes and Prison Break are surprisingly comparable. Like, both had a really strong first season, and then both only went 4 years, by the end of which everyone was kind of like, why is this still on? Because they creatively flagged in all those 3 years, and both had one that was cut short by the writing, and both got kind of overrun with characters it didn't know what to do with and rehashing of concepts. So,
and both are coming back this year, or
coming back.
I guess Prison Break will be next year. But.
Yeah. We'll see how it goes.
So we mentioned 24 earlier. Now there's talk of a new 24 series, although instead of focusing on, Jack Bauer and Chloe and those characters that, we've seen one day at a time, they're talking about doing it with like a whole new cast.
Don't care. If it's not
I don't know. I think 24 is one I'm most wary of because 24 strikes me as is such a post 9/11 show, like intensely so, and we've moved away from the immediacy of our post 9/11 years. So I feel like 24 as it was is no longer relevant, even though I know it's only been like 10 years.
The problem with 24, I think, is that they'll take a character, like they'll have like a great actor or something, and they'll be like, okay, let's bring this actor into the role. And they bring them in. They're like, okay, we got a role for you. And they make him kind of vaguely interesting, like, oh, something's going on. You don't know what it is. And then it always turns out to be really boring and has nothing to do with the rest of the season. And just feels completely pointless. The best example of that was Katie Sackhoff's character, who just kind of like, it was like, oh, Katie Sackhoff's hot right now, She just came off Battlestar Galactica. Everyone loves her, Let's bring her in. Oh, there's something weird going on with her character, and we don't really know what's going on. Oh, she's just like, stupid and involved in this. has like friends that are basically gonna pull her strings and get all this shit done, even though they're like small time people and, shouldn't even have any involvement there. It's,
I don't know. I've learned to embrace the goofiness of 24 and to go along with the ride. And really, it's the Jack Bauer show anyway. You just watch it to see what insane thing Jack Bauer is going to do next.
Was it the first or second season where his daughter was kidnapped like 3 times? in the course of like one day,
that was
remember?
The first season.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean...
And then like, they were attacked by mountain lions, like her and her mom.
That was season 2.
Okay.
But yeah, season 2 was the one where she was attacked by mountain lions and Jack Bauer walked away from a nuclear explosion. And what was remarkable about 24 is like, every character on that show ended up dead at one point or another except for Jack Bauer. Like, there was like a scene late in the series where Jack Bauer was clearly in a car. He was in a car and it exploded, and then it shows him walking away from that explosion without like a scratch, like he was invincible. When it was
24 is one of those shows that also really loses its luster if you try to marathon it.
If it was any other character on that show in that situation, they would have been killed off. But I mean, I don't know. I loved it for that absurdity, and I just fear that without Jack Bauer, it's not 24 at all. It's a different show.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's part of the 24 extended universe.
24 extended universe. I mean, if the new show stars Tony Almeida, that's cool. Otherwise, no. I mean, and also what happened to, like, Yvonne Stravinsky from, like, the last season? Seemed like they were setting her up to take over as the new Jack Bauer, but if they're going to go with somebody completely
She'll die in
new.
the pilot.
Yeah, I know, right? They're going to go with somebody completely new. That's kind of pointless then. All that set up last season.
So,
it just seems like they don't know what they're doing with this.
Let's move on. We really don't know what's going on with this story, except the fact that it looks like they're approaching new cast mainly out of contract negotiation.
Well, yeah, and also I heard the story I read said they did approach Peter Sutherland about it, and he said he didn't want to do it on season 24.
Yeah, it's bringing back old shows is the new hotness.
Yep.
Whether the stars want to do them or not.
So this one I'm kind of nervously excited for. This next story we got here. David Faustino, who played Bud Bundy in Married with Children, has officially confirmed that a spin-off series to Married with Children is in development. Now, the original story that kind of leaked out that people were talking about was that this was going to be a story about Bud Bundy's family.
Right.
And that other characters might cameo in it here and there, you
so
know?
it's going to, it's kind of like Fuller House to Full House.
Right.
Yeah, except from a show that was good.
And Vacation. and Vacation, the National Lampoon's Vacation.
Yeah. Actually, a lot like that. Probably more like that, just because I think Vacation and Married with Children have more in common.
Yeah, they have a lot more in common.
But yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic. I adore Married with Children. I still watch episodes of Married with Children just constantly. They rerun on TBS like 6 hours a day of those episodes. I'm constantly catching episodes here and there, watching them. I think Al Bundy is still one of the greatest TV characters of all time. Bud Bundy as, kind of the focal point, I don't know. But I mean, that leaves a lot open as to who his family is, and that only kind of shows him as one of the primary characters. It could be interesting. I've always found myself thinking, man, I'd love to watch a new episode of Married with Children just because there's so many things that they've covered in Married with Children that have since changed in a way that it would be funny to kind of see how, the characters react to it. One thing was every time they depicted computers in Married with Children, it was always in such a negative way from Al Bundy's opinion, going oh, this is just gets in the way or something like that. And I always think man, internet pornography, Al Bundy would be in heaven. So I'm always curious about those kind of things. I want to see kind of these characters reacting to things that are a little bit more modern than, when the show was around in the early 90s and 80s, So I'm excited about it, but this is also, it treads on that territory of, this could be a mar on something I love.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Do either of you like Married with Children, or?
I've never watched it.
Yeah, I used to watch it all the time back in the day. I mean, yeah, I watched a ton of that show. It is one of the all-time great sitcoms of the early 90s.
The other thing is, I wonder if they're going to go with an audience, because the original Married with Children did have an audience, like most sitcoms did in that era.
Yeah, that was common in that era. It's not common anymore, at all. But yeah, it'd be interesting if they did. I don't think they will, just because nobody does it, and it probably saves them money not to do it.
Yeah.
It's interesting. The only sitcoms that do that, to my knowledge now, are the Chuck Lorre sitcoms like Big Bang Theory and 2.5 Men.
Hey, Mr. Robinson just premiered.
Yeah, that's true.
Also with a live studio audience, so.
Yay.
That was a very enthusiastic yay. So another comedy series that I really love is Curb Your Enthusiasm. For those who don't know, if you like Seinfeld, you'd probably really like Curb Your Enthusiasm. It's basically the meta sequel to Seinfeld. It follows Larry David, who was the showrunner of Seinfeld, playing himself as a former showrunner of Seinfeld, who now is just kind of meandering around while everybody's like, well, what are you going to do next? And he's like, I don't know. And it's just he's very George Costanza-esque.
Well, I heard...
George Costanza is largely based on Larry David. So that kind of weird social awkwardness of saying things that aren't, necessarily appropriate and getting kind of in trouble for it kind of thing that George Costanza would do. That's very much what Larry David does, actually in real life, but especially so in Curb Your Enthusiasm. This is a show that, like, HBO basically gave Larry David free reign on this. They're like, okay, you want to do more, you can do more whenever you want to do more. It's never fit into the regular seasonal structure. They're not like, okay, what are you going to bring us next season? It's like, hey, when do you want to make more episodes? This year, next year, at all?
I mean, this show was never officially canceled, like you would say. He just couldn't get around to making another season. And,
he's basically sitting on a blank check for the season.
Yeah,
HBO wants it. You know, they're basically waiting for him to do it on his own whim.
Yeah, he's doing this on his own time. So what's come out of this recently, though, is that HBO's boss, Michael Lombardi, said that he had talked to Larry David, and Larry David has notebooks full of ideas. Like, basically like a continuing show Bible for the series. That could go on, that where it could come back. And then they recently, Jeff Garlin, who played his agent, also named Jeff, I believe, in the show, has said he thinks there's a 51% chance of Curb Your Enthusiasm coming back for another season. Right.
So, I mean, not much to say about that. There's, it's not a show that's going to be kind of ruined or questionable based on the era or if it comes back or not or something. Because it really just kind of follows Larry David's own real life. And, and how he's just kind of a weird guy and stuff. So, I mean, it can kind of continue in any time, in any way. So,
right.
I'd like to see more. I really enjoy that series. Have you guys watched that at all?
I haven't. No, I don't think I would have. I never got into Seinfeld, so I doubt I would enjoy it.
If you weren't into Seinfeld, then you probably wouldn't be into Curb Your Enthusiasm. It doesn't have a live studio audience. That's the difference.
I love Seinfeld, but I never watched Curb.
Oh, you should. Curb Your Enthusiasm. It's on HBO, so it's the HBO show. If you still have HBO now, check that out. If you like Seinfeld, you should like Curb Your Enthusiasm. It basically feels like Seinfeld too. And they even have a bunch of the cast from Seinfeld showing up playing themselves, and they did like not the last season, but like a season before that, I think. They actually did a whole season about them making a Seinfeld reunion
I heard
special.
about that. I always thought that was like kind of like they did that because that's kind of like what everybody watching the show was like kind of requesting them to do. And like it seemed expected.
Well, the joke that always went through is how people think that Seinfeld had like this horrible ending, and Larry David always defends it. And so like the actors would be like, oh yeah, that'd be great, let's do that again. Then we can make up for that bad ending. And he's all, it wasn't a bad ending! He gets all offended by it. So yeah, it's a really funny show. I actually like it a lot. So, yeah, if you like Seinfeld, it's totally worth checking out. If you like Kat and Seinfeld never appealed to you, then it's pretty much the same thing, so it's not really going to do anything for you. A Netflix series that I got into just recently and watched through the entirety of the first season, Sense8, it's been questioned whether or not it'll come back. And it looks like the writer for the series, J. Michael Straczynski, has been saying that it looks very likely that it's going to come back. Did either of you end up watching any of Sense8?
I didn't know.
I actually end up really liking it by the end. I think it's really... I liked it in ways that I didn't expect. Like I was thinking along the lines of the Wachowski siblings and kind of what I would expect from the series, and those aspects of it were like the least interesting. To me, it was more kind of just like the human story underneath that ended up becoming really good. So yeah, I'm really excited about the prospect of a second season. But I also wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't happen, because it just didn't get a lot of buzz, a lot of attention, especially considering who was involved and how they filmed in 6 countries, and that couldn't have been cheap.
Right.
Yeah. That's true.
Last week you were talking about the shows you've been watching. One of those shows was Arrested Development. Well, we got some more non-news on Arrested Development Season 5. Basically, they're still working on it.
Woo! All right.
Joy.
So
before there was kind of the rumor that it was going to go into production in January, and now it's more like, oh, they're just working it out.
At a certain point, maybe should they just let it die?
They're playing the cast shuffle. They're trying to get off the cast. You know, like all the cast wants to do it, but they're trying to get it all with their schedules. Okay, I think we lost Kat again. Well, let's move on here, in case we did lose her. So I want to start wrapping up pretty soon.
Yeah, me too.
The last things I got on here on this list, we have some series kind of discussion about them coming to an end. So, first off, it's been confirmed that the upcoming 4th season of Banshee is going to be its last. I actually kind of feel that's a good time to kind of end it. I really like the show. It's kind of underwatched and underrecognized, but it's one of those shows that, like, I just can't see it going much further. And if they're going into the 4th season knowing, you know, like, okay, this is the last one, then I'm hopeful in how they're going to wrap things up and do kind of things in the right way. I'm always happy to see a show when the showrunners and the people involved are like, yeah, we're done. We're going to end this now.
Right.
It always kind of makes me happy in a way because it just means it should end on their terms.
Right. I'm always happy when shows end on the showrunners' terms rather than the network's terms. That always makes me happy when that happens.
So I'm excited about that. There was also a kind of weird story going with Community where Joel McHale had basically left this big thing where he was talking about how you know, it's just too expensive to make now. The actors are too big and, you know, kind of covering all their different salaries and on the smaller format with Yahoo versus NBC and how it just was not feasible and they couldn't do it and it was too expensive. So everyone's reporting, okay, that means Community's gone. This is 6 seasons. It's over. Then just recently, Joel McHale tweeted out basically saying, whoa, hold on. It's not canceled. Okay.
If it's not canceled, then what is it? Because it's either coming back or it's canceled. There's no in between.
So Joel McHale's kind of, you know, confusing everyone here.
Is it pining for the fjords? It's just resting.
So the thing is it's already run 6 seasons. The slogan of the series has always been 6 seasons in a movie.
So where's the movie, Joel McHale?
I don't care about another season. I just want the movie. I just want the prophecy to come true.
You can afford Allison Brie for a movie at least, right? Maybe not a TV budget, but a film budget for sure.
Yeah, even like a small scale, like, you know, internet distributed movie or show or something.
Right?
Yeah, you know, just do a little 90-minute, try to get everyone back. That would be great. I'd love to see Donald Glover wasn't in the last season. Love to see him back.
Are we gonna have to kickstart it?
I'd pitch in on that.
Right?
I definitely would. I think if they kickstarted a Community movie, they'd get it. Especially if they could bring back all the kind of people that have left over the years. Not Chevy Chase, because that's just not going to happen, and they don't need to. But Donald Glover, Yvette Nicole Brown, if they could bring them back,
right,
it'd be great. So that pretty much covers up for the rest of the show, I guess. I'll try to kind of edit around all this weird connection trouble we're having here at the end, but thank you everybody for listening. You can check us out at TVEnthusiast.com. This podcast is available through iTunes or any kind of a podcast agent you use, whether it's Radio FM or Pocket Cast or anything else will pop up right there. So just look up TV Enthusiast and you should find our podcast. In addition to that, you can check out our YouTube channel. We post videos of like Hannibal and stuff. Those all go up on our site as well. Again, TVEnthusiast.com. Every week we've been talking about the this season of Hannibal. We used to have a special called Dinner with Hannibal. Now we've changed it to Art Appreciation with Francis Dollarhide. according to the change in the story that's going on right now. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Any last words, Will?
No, not really.
Will's tombstone. Will Robrig. No, not really. His last words. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Check back with us next week, and have a great night. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
If you would like to voice your opinion, send an email to theweeklyset@TVEnthusiast.com. TV Enthusiast is a part of the Enthusiast Media Network. Stay tuned to TV Enthusiast and the Weekly Set podcast for more